Have you tried fly fishing for gar? If not, you really should. They jump, they pull hard, they get big. It's a lot of sight fishing. They're an awesome fish to target with a fly. But if you're going to target them, you got to get a hook into them, and that can be really problematic. They have a bony mouth full of teeth, so getting your standard fly pattern hooked up and pinned in that fish's mouth, at least for very long, is not an easy task. So if you want to target gar and land them more effectively, you need a more specialized rig to effectively do that. The old standby is the rope fly, and what the rope fly is you use nylon rope fibers, tie those into your fly, the fish comes up, eats it, those fibers get entangled in their teeth, and you actually pull them in manually without a hook in them. I'm not gonna lie, the rope fly works, but I really dislike it personally. And my biggest issue with it is it's just a pain in the butt to get it out of the fish if they do come up, grab it, and get it entangled in their teeth really good. You know, best case scenario, you sit there with pliers, you twist and turn and yank on it, and eventually you get all those fibers out. Worst case scenario, what I've seen happen is that rope material breaks off when you're yanking on it, and you leave some of that in the fish's mouth. The fish swims off. If it can't get rid of those fibers, they're entangled in their teeth, which prevent them from opening their mouth and feeding. So it's not good for the fish. It's also just a pain for the angler. So I'm going to show you the rig that I use instead of the rope fly that I found in the last 4 or 5 years has worked really well for me. I've been successful with it, and I really much prefer it over the rope fly method. So let's check out the stinger rig that I've been running the last few years. Okay, so here is my rig when I've been fly fishing for gar the last handful of years that's been really productive for me. And what I'm doing is I'm running a stinger hook off the back of my standard fly pattern. And in particular, you probably already noticed the controversial feature, I'm running a treble hook as my stinger. And fly fishing with treble hooks, I know that's going to freak some people out. They're not going to like it. Here's my thing. Gar, they're a super tough fish. They got a bony mouth, full of teeth. You're not going to beat them up using a treble. And that treble hook, having 3 hook points, it just gives you a lot more opportunity to get this hooked up into the fish and keep them buttoned. So I really like running the treble. If that freaks you out and you want to run just a standard single hook as your stinger, you absolutely can. There's nothing wrong with that. But the treble gives you more hookup percentage. And this stinger rig is certainly not anything I pioneered running the trebles. There's some other people that I saw doing this online and talked to. So I just took what they were doing, adapted to my fisheries, but it's been super successful, and I've really, really enjoyed it a lot more than fishing with the rope flies. So just some braided line, tied in, go to your fly, and the important thing is with placement, you want this to be roughly the length of the tail of the fly. A little bit shorter, a little bit longer is not a bad thing, but you don't want this hook to end up way off the back of the fly. You know, we're trying to get the fish to come up and eat the fly. We don't want to snag them, but having that hook placed towards the back is really important because longnose gar, at least in my fishery, they have a really bad habit of coming back and just nipping at the tail of the fly. So having that hook there, if they come up and they just kind of nip at it, you get them pinned a lot of times. Every once in a while you'll come have one just absolutely trash the fly, eat the whole thing, and you may even hook them on the front hook, but more often than not, they're nipping at the back and you're getting them on that treble. The other thing I really like about this stinger rig is it's a ton of range of motion, the way it's tied in with this braided line. So when the fish is running and jumping and twisting, it really has not much opportunity to get thrown out of their mouth. So my landing percentage has been really high with this stinger rig like this. I did experiment with tying in some trebles using a split ring and tying a fly just off a big game shank. So that way it's in the right position of the fly. And this method worked. I hooked fish, but I noticed my landing percentage was a lot less effective than it was just running that stinger with some braid off the back of the standard hook. In terms of fly pattern, you can keep it pretty simple. They're not super picky. Some of these basic craft fur minnows are what I tied in different sizes and different weights depending on depth and the amount of current I've been in. You can kind of get experimental with colors. This one I thought was pretty cool, kind of tied it to imitate a central stone roller, which I've seen gar eating in the spring. This orange fly got chomped on pretty good the other day, but it's not super important fly pattern. Bright colors do tend to work pretty well in my fisheries, so these are just tied out of ripple ice fiber. That pink one's done really well the last couple years for me, but keep it simple, little baitfish pattern in that 2 to 4 inch range, something like that. It's a good choice. If you're a fly buyer and you're not a tyer, you might have some pre-existing flies in your box that you can set this stinger hook rig up on. For example, a MFC sparkle minnow or just a finesse changer might be some good choices to attach this stinger rig. But how you're going to set this up, first thing you want to do is you want to get some braid. So something like this 50-pound PowerPro is a good choice. Anything from 40 to 50 pound seems to be a good way to go, braided line wise. The brand's not super important, but get you some braid. And then you're going to need some kind of hook. If you want to run the treble rig, I really like these Gamakatsu round bends. I've had good luck with these. I started with the number 8, and the number 8 you can probably get away with most of the time if you're fishing in a lake or a slower moving river, and it works great. I did beef up to the number 6 on a lot of my flies that I'm fishing in the river. Some of the places in the late spring that I fly fish for gar, they're in heavy current and there's some pretty big fish. So what I was noticing is if I was putting the pressure on some big fish in current, they were starting to open up the hook points on the number 8. By going to the number 6, I pretty much eliminated that, and it gives me a good amount of pulling power without bending those hooks out. But you do want to keep them small. You don't want to throw a really big treble. If you go too big with your treble, it's just going to get caught up in the casting and foul up a lot more than necessary. So once you have those, you're going to tie in the braided line to the bend of the hook, almost like you're tying tippet off of a dry fly. Go down with the braid a couple inches and then tie on that treble, cinch down your knots, make sure everything's secure, and you're good to fish. If they beat up the line connection or your fly, you can just cut it off, redo it. But give this a shot. I just found this works a lot better for me than the rope fly. It's way easier to handle the fish and get them unhooked. If you got any questions, hit us up here at the shop. We do have all the braid, the trebles, we do sell them. So if you need some of that, give us a call and get out and fly fish for some dinosaurs. Go catch some gar this summer, guys.